Welcome to the Pac-Clone series of videos, The Race to the Finish, 3 of 4. This video is of a technical nature and is intended for technically minded individuals who are interested in programming on the Commodore 64. I'm guessing if you're watching this video, you're probably familiar with the series and know what's in store. For anyone that's new, welcome. Today's video is a behind-the-scenes look at how I created the sound and music for my game GPAC Dementia Defender. But before I get into that, I wanted to give just a few quick updates. The author of the Classic Gaming Bookcast and general master of the art of writing game reviews, Chris++, aka Chris Federico, contacted me via email to let me know what he thought of the game. Hi again, Glenn. I've had a massive amount of fun playing your Pac-Man variant. I find it extremely clever that you've added that speed-up twist as a sort of extra reward for the player's consumption of multiple monsters. I also like how you've replaced the intermissions with playable bonus levels. The Dragon's Wrath level, I obviously dig the reference to adventure, reminds me in playfield structure of Maze Craze on the VCS, which is awesome. You can check out his game reviews over at his website at orphanedgames.com. Yesterday I was contacted by somebody from retrogamer.net asking if I would be willing to do a making of interview for a future issue of their retro gaming magazine, which I responded that I would love to do. And they let me know that their review of GPAC Dementia Defender will be in issue 167 of their magazine, so I can't wait to see that. I heard from a fellow YouTuber from youtube.com/Navira Videos asking for a tape image format of GPAC, which I did not have available at the time. So I created a very vanilla tape image and updated my download link. Not very long afterwards, they got back to me with an updated tape ROM, which included a spruced up tape loader with a text scroller, music, an image from the game's manual, and it also shrunk down the size. Let's check it out here. So right here what you're seeing is when you actually load the game from tape, it loads here for a few seconds. So it actually takes a few minutes, and then the music starts, and then the rest of the game loads. I was again blown away by how neat that was. I have updated my download link to include this version. I asked them how they did that and they were like, no sweat, we just use this tool right here. TapeMaster Pro version 3.0. So I'll have to check that out sometime. They also said they are musicians and they use the C64 SID sound a lot in their songs. And they said they built this crazy hybrid Commodore 64/Windows 10 workstation, which is documented in this link. You have to check this out. I've never seen anything like this before. It's really cool. So anyway, I wanted to thank everyone for all of these updates and their contributions. I really do appreciate it. In the previous video, we left off with the discussion on music. So let's continue that discussion here and jump right into it with the first segment. So this is the SID tracker. It's available on the App Store for your iPad or iPhone, I believe. I'm not sure if it works on the iPhone, actually, but I know it works on the iPad. And this is what I used to compose the music in Pac-Clone. I use this program because it's easier to me to learn to use as opposed to like Goat Tracker or some of those ones that work even on the PC. But let me demo this program here real quick. So I'm definitely not a musician of any kind, so I'm just going to show how I did this. There's a few options on the program. You can have it be running continuously, and when you hit record, it will start recording those tracks. And then you have your drums on the left and right. So I'm going to hit record, the record button, and I'm going to hit some drums to lay down a track on this. These are your voices, voice 1, voice 2, and voice 3. And so I'm going to lay down some drums. And so that could be your background your background kind of noise there. And then on in your middle track, you can just kind of lay down something. And you can kind of see where I'm going with it. And then over here on the third track, if you really wanted to, you could lay down another type of noise. And after a while it does become noise if you're not careful. And so this is your loop right here. You can add more, so you can have more length to your song that you're trying to create. There's a lot to this program that I'm not going to be able to demonstrate because I don't know it 100% that well. And I'm going to pull up the song that I had wrote for Pac-Clone, and you hit this little disc right here, load, and I called it G-Ray Defender. Click load, and so here's the length of my song. It's like 5, I don't know if those are called bars or loops or whatever, but, and then hit play. So I did this a couple of weeks ago, and I kind of got lucky creating this song because I wasn't able to do anything any better. I gave it a try. Like, okay, I got to be able to do something a little better than this, but unfortunately this is the best I could do. And I love this program. It allows you to create all kinds of different sounds and so on. And then it allows you to export it. So you can click export, and they have a few options as a .s64, a .sid, a .prg, a .acc audio. But I just chose a .sid, and I unchecked the S64, and I used email to email it to myself. And then I just put in my email address and click send, and within seconds I had that song. And then I was able to use that song. I was able to use that song in the program just by doing an inc bin, or INCBIN, in the file name. So anyhow, that's a quick overview of SID Tracker. I can't get into much more detail because I'm not a musician, and this thing does a lot. It's a great program. I think I paid $12 or $13 for it in the store, so it was well worth it. Alright, in this segment I wanted to talk about the program sounds in the Pac-Clone game. Coming into this project, I had zero clue how to do the sounds. In fact, there was no sounds up until the last couple of months period in the game, except for the .eat sound, which I copied from a Lemon 64 forum, and I had no idea really how that worked. But what I did was here recently was scoured the internet looking for program samples of music or sound, and I apologize for not having the source of where I found this particular code snippet, but what I did was I used this little program, and let's run it and see what it does. So that's all it does, is it's a little jingle. So I took this little snippet of code right here and I started playing with it and massaging it and doing all kinds of stuff with it that is probably illegal. But at any rate, I started coming up with other sounds, like, for example, the eat fruit. And let's see, I don't know if that's even... Anyway, that's the sound I'm using for the eat fruit. Just by tweaking that program a little bit and throwing a loop here, or either an up or a down, either looping, stepping -1 or increasing in value, poking the SID +1, comma, that value. SID being this 54272. 54272 is voice 1. The voice 1 frequency. And I just keep tweaking it. I just kept tweaking it until I got things to kind of work a little bit. And then I experimented with an introduction song. Like, for example, I was trying to mimic the arcade Pac-Man, but I did miserably here. Let's check that out. I don't know. I hope you can hear those. I'm gonna turn that up. So it turned out being so abysmal I couldn't use it. So then I went ahead and I said, hey, I wonder what it would be like if I mimicked Atari. Maybe I can just do the Atari 2600 Pac-Man intro. That was the closest I could get to it. And I was like, no, no, I really like to do something a little more original, and that's what I did, was a little more original, not a whole lot. And that turned into this program right here. And so that's what I ended up using in the Pac-Clone game now. That's the official sound. Of course, you know, all of these programs that are written in BASIC would eventually have to be changed over to assembler. But before I get to that, let's check out a few more sounds. So this here was the bonus sound, or was going to be the sound when you got your speed boost if you eat all 4 ghosts in the first couple of rounds. And that was almost the same as the the Atari 2600 version sound. Then there's the challenge sound. So that's a sound that I use when you go into the challenge rounds. And it's just changing the notes right here, you know, all of these little things. Then I came up with a couple of different the eat fruit, the eat go sounds. That one, I don't know what that is. Let's go to the second eat ghost. So you can see I was trying to come up with a sound that it would make that would trigger when you eat the ghost, and I didn't end up going with that particular version. And then there's the death sound. I used something close to this sound that's about to play. So I basically use that verbatim, except maybe at different speeds. And then there's the siren sounds, and the super bonus. Let's listen to the siren sound. So you can see it's going up in tone, intonation. And really that's all the siren was. I realized right then how to do the background siren, because before that I had no idea. All you have to do is, you know, play a sound, increase the tone, increase it a little more, increase, and then at some point decrease that tone, decrease, and it sort of becomes a sound wave, a sine wave, where it just woo, woo, woo. But of course that has to not only be in assembly, but also play during the program interrupt. So let's see the super bonus sound. So there's a couple of that's when you I end up using that sound when you complete one of the challenge screens. And then there's the level unlock. So when you unlock the Easter egg in the game, I use a version of that program right there. So when you when you unlock the Easter egg, and then also when you complete all 3 challenge screens successfully, you'll get a super bonus, and it makes that sound. So really, I'll show the same versions in assembly. You can see some of them I've tweaked since, so I'm not even sure if they'll run, but let's check them out. The eat fruit sound. So that's how the eat fruit sound is in assembler. And then the eat ghost sound. That I ended up going with. And they're really just a short program. You know, it's almost the same as the basic. All I did was line for line try to, you know, mimic exactly what the basic program was doing. Let's try the eat sound 2, eat ghost sound 2. So it's pretty close to that first one. And eventually what I realized is like, I'm going to need to start naming these with the word sound in front of them. And so I started naming them. So like sound challenge in assembler plays like this. So that's when you make it to the challenge rounds in Pac-Clone. The death sound, this is the initial one that was just converted from basic to assembler. And I was really happy with that, and I ended up using it. Then I realized, for whatever reason, I decided I wanted to take that program and convert it into the interrupt, so it played during the program interrupt. And it actually became a little more succinct and clean. But it's the same exact sound, so I'm not even going to run it. The free man sound, let's play that. Oh, that one's not running. Hold on, whoops, I got an F right here. Let's play that again. See, I was just beep, beep, beep. I think I increased it to 4 beeps in the actual game, and this runs in the program interrupt. And the only difficulty I had with implementing the free man sound was that it would step on other sounds that were playing. So if you happen to be eating dots, or if you were eating ghosts or fruit, and that sound plays, I had to do some shenanigans to make that sort of work right. You'll have to see during gameplay, but that was a challenge. And then I have my siren. I decided on the background siren to switch it to voice 2 instead of voice 1, so it's constantly playing during most of the game, and it won't interfere with the other sounds. So let's see if that program runs. And you see it's just a fast loop, and at the bottom of the program there's these variables down here, and if you just change the wave min or the wave max, you end up completely changing how the pitch of the you know, it's like either really deep or really high, woo woo woo, or you know, so just playing with that. And what I had to do was incorporate in the same sort of program structure, since it's all wave related, like up down, you know, sounds up, sounds down, in a sinusoidal sort of fashion. The ghost eyes, when Pac-Clone eats a ghost and the eyes return to the ghost cage, it makes a different wave sound. And so also just when you get blue time, there's a different wave sound. It's just a little faster, and I'm not even going to demonstrate that because I have to modify the program here to do that. So it's just switching a byte. And then of course the Freeman sound, which I've already demonstrated, but the first one, I think the first one was during the program interrupt, and that's the one I end up going with. And then this one down here is the one that's not in the program interrupt. So anyhow, it was a blast learning how to use the sounds, and the memory map really helped me a lot right here. I don't know what all these things mean, but I knew enough to play around and just keep tweaking and trying different things until I got things to work properly. And then one of the other things that I had to work on was the making the sound actually go away during the attract mode, because you don't want the sounds playing. I didn't want the sounds playing in the attract mode. I just wanted it to be quiet. So I ended up that ended up being actually a very simple. Just instead of the tone being like a value, it would just be the value of 0. I just had to substitute the value to a value of 0. And there was a couple of ways you could either lower the volume. There was a few ways you could go about lowering the sound without actually having to make a whole bunch of program changes or any coding. So you could either lower the volume down to 0 or down to nothing, which I found to be really tricky. And I went down that path, and I decided against doing it that way. And I ended up doing something similar to just making the tones all the way to 0. Which is basically the same thing. You know, you can't hear it at that point. And I wanted to talk about one more sound, and that was the eat dots sound. So what I discovered is on the real I was going to go with the way the dots sounded earlier on, and I'm glad I didn't, because it turns out that, you know, that was a really poor choice. But probably if there wasn't a problem with the real hardware with the sound, I would have just went with it. But the sound on the real hardware, you could not hear the dot being eaten. It was just really low volume, and there was no easy way for me to make that, to pump that up. And so I just said, why not just redesign it and do it like I did the rest of the sounds. And so in my little eat dots program right here, I think I copied the sound challenge one, but all it's doing, it's a quick little wave from 10 to 13. So it starts off at 10, then goes 11, 12, 13, and it just does it bloop, 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 you know, like that. Let me run this program. And hold on. You can't even hear it, but what I was trying to do was make it run a couple of times. So I have it being called a couple times, but you know, I only heard one. So anyway, it's just a short little program, and if you look at it within Pac-Clone, I renamed some of the variables. I have the .min and the .max, and I changed it from 10 to 13 to 15 to 20. And let's take a look at the program. And so once it's, you know, once I converted it over, it's real short and succinct piece of code. And it just goes, you know, bleep, 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 and it's really fast, and it only triggers, it runs during the program interrupt, and it only triggers when you set a variable. When you set the trigger, it works just the way it's supposed to work. It's independent of the speed that you're going and everything. And so now if you ever wanted to play around with the min and max wave values, that will completely change the entire way the game sounds. But it is also a fun way to play around with the Pac-Clone source code. Anyway, that's the end of the sound segment. I hope you enjoyed it.